Greetings, welcome to thctrust.org. Quick video for you. Ndaa in court over indefinite detention of Americans. I want to be clear, they did not say United States citizens, they said Americans. And there's a difference. And maybe some people watching this aren't familiar with that difference. Let's see. If you want to better understand what that difference is, you can go to thctrust.org and click the foundation menu, and it'll give you kind of an idea about the different jurisdictions that take place on this land that we call America. So, in a nutshell, many of those that already have a basic understanding of this know the difference between United States citizens and Americans. Americans being somewhat of a foreign jurisdiction to the United States. But so that's why this is a little bit, I don't want to say shocking because it doesn't shock me, but it is a little bit alarming. And the NDAA is the National Defense Authorization Act. The defense bill passed by Congress and signed by Obama into law on New Year's Eve permits the detention of Americans and denies suspected terrorists the right to trial and subjects the individual to be held indefinitely. That right there kind of makes it seem like it's not only a violation of constitutional rights, quote unquote, but it's even a violation of human rights and the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights if you're going to deny an American an immediate right to trial and create a situation to where he can be held indefinitely. During the signing of the NDAA, Obama claimed he had serious reservations about the provisions on detention, interrogation, and prosecution of suspected terrorists. My administration will not authorize the indefinite military detention without trial of American citizens, Obama said in a statement regarding the law. That's what he said. Indeed, I believe that doing so would break with our most important traditions and values as a nation. Notice he didn't say anything about he believes that doing so would break any type of laws or anything like that. He just said it'll break the traditions and the values as a nation. Obama originally opposed the act, but signed it anyway. Now, some people don't understand, and I can't tell you with certainty, but it's my belief that people like President Obama, Ben Bernanke, and a lot of the public officials that you see, they're just figureheads and faces. They don't have any control over what really happens. Like, for example, I don't think President Obama has any control over the wars and stuff that's going on in the Middle East. I don't think the decision to really go to war and the lives and the blood that's shed or the lives that are spared and the decision to just pull out today, I really don't think, and I think it would be naive to think that that kind of power is vested in him. So when I read this type of stuff, I don't get emotional about it. I just take it to be informative so I can be better informed on what's going on. But the reason I brought this up because a lot of people ask me, well, what is the benefit of nationalizing as a Moorish American? And again, I always refer to one of the main things is the fact that we have that peace treaty, which brings us into recognition on an international level. Something I said before, and I'll say it again, and I'm saying this because I've seen this. I've seen this firsthand. Law applies to nations, does not apply to citizens. Again, and I say that over and over again. Citizens are subject to the contract, and that's American citizens, as we see, and it's United States citizens. Citizens are not part of nations. Even the word citizens denotes contract. That's why it begins with the C. Just like commercial law, just like code, just like commerce, just like constitution. They're all contracts. So, and somebody asked me, and I assume this is not going to be the only time I'm going to say this, I'm going to have to bring this up again and again in multiple audios and videos, I'm certain. Now, I'm talking, this is what I would do based off of my experience and what I've seen happen in the past. So, how would you use these documents, your peace treaty and your declaration of status documents? How would you use them to protect yourself from things such as this? Because now, somebody may try to detain you under their law, which is the law of the United States. Um, and under their law, they may wrongfully presume that you're within their jurisdiction of authority because in most cases, everybody's presumed to be an American citizen. Now, how you would do that is if your documents that acknowledge and certify your nationality are already in the public record, like say if you were to go out Monday and you were to get these things notarized, signed up, and filed into the appropriate record, then when something like that occurs, the first thing, even as they just alluded to in the article, oh, excuse me, they didn't allude to it in the article, but if you actually go read that act, they talk about, one of the first things they talk about is the procedure that's set forth to determine the status of the detainee. See, now if you were to already have your established a matter of fact in the record, then that would be something that does not need to be determined because it would already be established. And then once they know what the status is, then they have to review, okay, what law applies. You don't apply American law to a foreigner. It just doesn't happen like that. And part of the way that you certify to make sure that doesn't happen is anytime something happens to you, you're always filing a mandatory counterclaim. Somebody may want to try to overlook your status. It's happened before. But quite frankly, I haven't really seen it happen to anyone who's done it the right way. But I've seen it happen. When I've seen people have their status overlooked, it's usually because of that person's behavior. They approach things in a belligerent standpoint, and they approach things as if they're going up against an enemy, so to speak. Now, but if you do have those documents and you find yourself in any kind of situation, you're bringing your mandatory counterclaim, because when you do that, then it forces the judge to first determine whether or not he has jurisdiction, because he's not only trying to hear a claim that's being brought against you, he's required to evaluate your counterclaims. I call it mandatory counterclaim. Now, I'm just speaking generally because there's a lot of other things that that should be taken into consideration depending upon what are real courts and what are not real courts, and what's the court of record and all of that. But without going into all that, if you have your records already established, then they don't need to determine what the status is. And now it's all about, are we in the right venue, and does everyone have, and does the judge have the appropriate jurisdiction to handle to hear an international claim, because it's an international incident, and that's not something that can be tried in your county court or your magistrate court. So that's something to consider, something to think about. It's been my experience that I've seen things thrown out when someone approaches it like that, when they make known their status and they bring a claim, they bring a counterclaim that has to be adjudicated under international law. Because what would have to happen is that whole record, that whole trial would have to be removed to a higher jurisdiction that can handle international claims. And usually what's going to happen is it's just going to get thrown out and dismissed. I would also like to inform you that I've been in contact with the National Archives, and I've spoken to the lady that is that has a very important role there. As a matter of fact, if you were going to get any authentic documents, such as an authentic constitution with the Great Seal on it and the stripe and the whole 9 yards, you would have to go through her. And she did confirm to me that the Peace and Friendship Treaty is indeed active. Not the one from 1787 though. They actually renewed it in 18, I want to say 57. I might be wrong on the date, but they renewed it, and she said it was only minor things they took out, like an extradition charge or something to that effect. But that's great news because again, uh, I would encourage um, any Moorish American to try to get his hands on a copy of of a real official authentic peace treaty to keep kind of with his private documents, maybe his travel documents or something that you'll keep locked up in a safe. And you want to treat it just like a deed. You want to put your acknowledgement on it. But now you can just print one off the internet, put your acknowledgement on it, sign it in front of a notary, and have it filed into your county record as part of the whole establishing your status process. But if you just want something nice and pretty to travel with, should you ever find yourself in a situation and you need to make it known who you are, I think that will go along nicely with your repertoire and your peaceful demeanor. you know, you don't want to be belligerent. As a matter of fact, in the NDAA, they actually use that term belligerent. So that's, and it's something I learned a while ago. You don't want to be belligerent. There's nothing to argue about. It is what it is. So just be peaceful and don't take no position. Ask questions and let the record speak for itself. Everything is behind you right now. Let me stop rambling on. Oh, and on the last note, I wanted to mention one thing. As far I was just talking about nationalizing and the peace treaty and all that. To find out how you can self nationalize, I mean, I have some declarations and some documents on the site. Go to thctrust.org and look towards the bottom of the page on the left side. You'll see some links about establishing your status. Last thing I want to say, and this is to, I know there's some people here that have different nationalities, other than Moorish American, and I'm doing some research myself because there's a lot of things that I don't completely understand yet, and I encourage everyone. A lot of what I talk about has nothing to do with um, hasn't anything to do with racism. It has to do with just examining the facts and figuring out, uh, how things, figuring out where things are and where they're supposed to go from here. You know, a lot of people, there's all these different movements about take back America and all this stuff. And you really can't say take back America because take it back from what? You're saying take it back from the indigenous people again, you know? And I'm not saying that you did it the first time, but what I'm saying is, you got to be respectful and you have to understand that I'm becoming more inclined to believe that the entire concept of citizenship, whether it's United States citizenship or American citizenship, it kind of goes back to like Roman citizenship. It has nothing to do with nationality. It has to do with the corporation. Hence, why the word citizen begins with a C, because corporation begins with the C, and it all has to do with contract, as does constitutions and commercial systems and codes and all of those type of things. So once you remove the whole corporate United States status, and you realize, what do we have here? We have just a whole bunch of nationalities um, on this land called America. However, it doesn't appear that America or American is a nationality, as nationality denotes continuity on the land. So, what does that mean for the status of other people that are here that have different backgrounds, whether they be European or Irish or whatever it may be? Um, I'm not exactly sure, but I do know that laws apply to nations and not corporations. And I'm just saying that to for it to be a reality check. So we have to re-examine our own status and see how we can put our protections in place and see how we can move forward. Because this NDAA is just one example of many things that I see on a daily basis that's really making me step back and have to reevaluate. I will say this: um, if you collapse the entire United States corporation, or now I don't want to use that. Let me call it like it is, at least as I see what's going on. I just spoke to somebody and they always say America was always a big experiment. Well, it seems like it's being foreclosed on right now. In the contract world, everything is, it's all kind of admiralty in a way, and it looks like they're foreclosing on America. So that's all the assets, and including all the subjects and all the slaves, whether it's United States citizens or America citizens. Kind of seems like there's a foreclosure going on. So if you remove yourself from that jurisdiction, or if you, or let's just say we move the veil, just get rid of the whole American thing for a second, and or let's at least back up and look at where it started. It started with those, with all the people that were here, the nations that were indigenous here, that were already here, and those that came here seeking refuge from the same thing that's going on now, which is the big corporation, if you will, um, England and all of that type of thing. So these individuals came together and formed America, and American citizenship and all of that type of stuff, came as a result of that. So is that a nationality? Does it denote any kind of continuity on the land? No, it doesn't. Does it have the protection of law? It kind of doesn't seem like it does. It seems like it's being treated as secured property that's being foreclosed upon in the commercial system that many of us are so familiar with. So just look at that, and I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just trying to be factual so we can approach this. And again, I'd like to hear everyone else's thoughts and opinions on this. I really, trust me, you guys don't email me when I say stuff like this. I would really like to hear your thoughts on it. Thank you for watching. Again, this ain't about a racism thing or nothing like that. It's just we got to educate ourselves to what's going on. And what's most important for everybody, no matter what your nationality or status is, the way you protect yourself is by establishing the record in advance. So I also, again, want to encourage you to learn how to do an administrative process, administrative procedure, and that's also talked about on thctrust.org on the left side. And thank you for watching. Oh, and donate $5. Thank you. Catch you later.